A modern container ship can weigh over 200,000 tons, which is almost 67,000 fully grown elephants. When the wind is screaming and the current is ripping, the force pushing on that ship is huge, strong enough to snap steel cables like they are string. And yet, these floating cities can be held in place by one metal hook that looks tiny next to everything else. But here's the thing, if you dropped that anchor in the middle of the deep ocean, it would do absolutely nothing. And if you tried to pull it up the wrong way, you could sink your own ship. How do captains know how much chain to use? How can they lift a 20-ton anchor out of thick mud? And what happens when the water is too deep? Today, we are answering the questions you did not even know you had about the heavy engineering of anchors, right here on CuriOddity. To understand how an anchor works, you first have to respect the chain. On a big ship, this is not a chain you grab at a hardware store. One single link on a cruise ship's anchor chain can weigh over 500 pounds, more than a mid-sized adult cow. The anchor itself might weigh 15 to 20 tons, but the chain attached to it is often heavier than the anchor. That weight is the secret weapon. When a captain anchors, they do not just drop the hook to the bottom. They let out a long stretch of heavy chain so it lies along the sea floor. This makes a hanging curve called a catenary. The chain's weight sinks into the mud and acts like a spring. When a wave pushes the ship back, the ship has to lift tons of steel chain off the bottom before it can even pull on the anchor. By the time the pull finally reaches the anchor, the force is mostly sideways. That sideways pull drives the anchor deeper into the ground instead of yanking it out. But what about the deep ocean? If a ship breaks down in the middle of the Pacific, can it drop anchor? The short answer is no. Commercial ships usually cannot anchor in water deeper than about 100 meters, or around 300 feet. If you are out in the ocean where the water is 2 miles deep, the chain would be too heavy to use. Just hanging that much steel straight down would put too much load on the windlass, the winch that holds the chain. It could snap the equipment or even tear the front of the ship apart. So in deep ocean water, ships do not anchor, they drift. Or if they are modern drill ships, they use dynamic positioning. That means computers and thrusters keep the ship swimming against the current, so it stays in one exact spot without touching the bottom. So when they are in shallow water, how does the captain know how much chain is out? It is not like they can lean out a window and see underwater. They use a very old-school measuring system called the shackle. A standard length of chain is called a shot or a shackle, and it is exactly 27.5 meters or 90 feet. These sections are connected using a special link that can be detached. Crew members paint these connector links in bright colors, usually white, red, or blue. When the chain is rushing out through the hawse pipe, an officer at the front counts the flashes of color and radios the bridge. 3 shackles in the water. That tells the captain how much chain is on the bottom and whether they have enough scope to hold the ship safely. Finally, the hardest part is leaving. Remember, a 20-ton anchor buried in mud can create a strong suction seal. You cannot just winch it straight up. The motor would overheat and burn out trying to fight the ocean floor. To bring the anchor back, the ship slowly moves forward and lines up directly above the spot where the anchor is buried. That changes the forces. The chain becomes vertical and pulls straight up on the anchor's shank. This upward pull breaks the suction. The crew calls that moment breaking out. As the anchor comes up, it is usually covered in tons of sticky, smelly mud before it comes back onto the ship. High-pressure water jets inside the hawse pipe blast the mud off so the chain locker stays clean. Once the anchor is locked against the side of the hull, the ship is free to move again. From the massive weight of the chain links to the color-coded paint system, anchoring is a mix of brute force and careful math. If you enjoyed this, you might also like to know why there are stones on a railway instead of concrete.